1 Corinthians 27. This is the list of the Israelites, the family heads, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, and their officers who served the king in every matter to do with the divisions that were on rotated military duty each month throughout the year. There were 24,000 in each division. Jashobim, son of Zabdiel, was in charge of the first division. For the first month, 24,000 were in his division. He was a descendant of Perez and chief of all the army commanders for the first month. Dodai, the Ahwite, was in charge of the division for the second month, and Mikloth was the leader. 24,000 were in his division. The third army commander as a chief for the third month was Benahiah, son of the priest Jehoiada. 24,000 were in his division. This Benahiah was a mighty man among the 30 and over the 30, and his son Amizadab was in charge of his division. The fourth commander for the fourth month was Joab's brother Asahel, and his son Zebadiah was commander after him. 24,000 were in his division. For the fifth month was the commander Shamuth the Israelite. 24,000 were in his division. The sixth for the sixth month was Ira, son of Ikesh, the Tekoite. 24,000 were in his division. The seventh for the seventh month was Helez, and the Pelonite from the descendant of Ephraim. The eighth for the 8th month was Sibbecai, the Hushathite, Zerahite. 24,000 were in his division. The ninth for the 9th month was Abiezer, the Anthothite, Benjaminite. 24,000 were in his division. The 10th for the 10th month was Mehariah, the Netophithite, Zerahite. 24,000 were in his division. The 11th for the 11th month was Benaiah, the Parathonite. from the descendants of Ephraim, 24,000 were in his division. For the 12th month was Heldai the Netophathite of Othanel's family. 24,000 were in his division. The following were in charge of the tribes of Israel. For the Reubenites, Eleazar, son of Zichri, was the chief official. For the Semonite, Shephatai, son of Maachah. For the Levites, Hashabai, son of Kemuel. For Aaron, Zadok. For Judah, Eliu, one of David's brothers. For Issachar, Omri, son of Michael. From Zelbon, Ishmaiah, son of Obadiah. For Naphtali, Jeremoth, son of Azrael. For the Ephraimite, Hoshi, son of Azazai. For half the tribe of Manasseh, Joel, son of Pedaiah. For half the tribe of Manasseh in Gilead, Iddo, son of Zechariah. For Benjamin, Jaziel, son of Abner. For Dan, Azriel, son of Jeroham. For Jeroham, where those were the leaders of the tribes of Israel. David didn't count the man aged 20 or under, for the Lord has said he would make Israel numerous as the stars of the sky. Joab, son of Mariah, began to count them, but he didn't complete it. There was wrath against Israel because of his census, and the number was not entered in the historical record of King David. Azmaveth, son of Adil, was in charge of the king's storehouse. Jonathan, son of Uzzah, was in charge of the storehouses in the country, in the country, in the city, in the village, and in the fortress. Ezri, was son of Chelub, was in charge of those who worked in the field, tiling the soil. Shimei, the Ramathite, was in charge of the vineyards. Zabdi, the Shiphanite, was in charge of the product of the vineyard. For the wine cellars, Baal-Hanan, and Baal-Hanan the Gederite was in charge of the olive and sycamore trees in the Judean foothills. Joash was in charge of the stores of olive oil. Shetriel the Sharonite was in charge of the herds that grazed in Sharon, while Shaphat, son of Adai, was in charge of the herds in the valley. Obil the Ishmaelite was in charge of the camels. Jediah the Moronite was in charge of the donkeys. Jazes the Higrite was in charge of the flock. All these were officials in charge of King David's property. David's uncle Jonathan was a counselor. He was a man of understanding and a scribe. Jehiel, son of Hachmoni, attended the king's son. Ahithophel was the king's consular. Hushai the Archite was the king's friend. After Ahithophel came Jehoiada, son of Benaiah, then Abithar. Job was the commander of the king's army.
1 Chronicles 28. David assembled all the leaders of Israel and Jerusalem, the leaders of the tribes, the leaders of the divisions in the king's service, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, and the officials in charge of all the property and cattle of king and his sons, along with the court officials, the fighting men, and all the soldiers. Then King David rose to his feet and said, "Listen to me, why, my brothers and my people. It was in my heart to build a house as a resting place for the ark of the Lord's covenant, and as a footstool for our God. I had made preparations to build. But God said to me, 'You are not to build a house for my name, because you are a man of war, and I have shed blood. Yet the Lord God of Israel chose me out of all my father's family to be king over Israel forever. For he chose Judah as leader, and from the house of Judah, my father's family, and from my father's sons, he was pleased to make me king over all Israel, and out of all my sons. For the Lord has given me many sons. He had chosen my son Solomon to sit on the throne of the Lord's kingdom over Israel. He said to me, your son Solomon is the one who is to build my house and my courts, for I have chosen him to be my son, and I will be his father. I will establish his kingdom forever if he perseveres in keeping my commands and my ordinances as he is doing today. So now in the sight of all Israel, the assembly of the Lord, and in the heart of our God, observe and follow all the commands of the Lord your God, so that you may possess this good land and leave it as an inheritance to your descendants forever. As for you, Solomon my son, and serve him wholeheartedly and with a willing mind, for the Lord searches every heart and understands the intention of every thought. If we seek him, he will be found by you, but if we abandon him, he will reject you forever. Realize now that the Lord had chosen you to build a house for the sanctuary. Be strong and do it. Then David gave his son Solomon the plans to the portico of the temple and its buildings, treasuries, upstairs rooms, inner rooms, and rooms for the mercy seat. The plans contained everything he had in mind for the courts of the Lord's house, of the surrounding chamber, the treasuries of God's house, and the treasuries for what is dedicated, also including where plans for the division of the priests and the Levites, all the work of the service in the Lord's house, all the articles of service of the Lord's house, the way of God, for all the articles for every king of service, the way of all the silver articles for every king of service, the way of all of the gold lampstand and their gold lamps, including the way of each lampstand and its lamp, the way of each silver lampstand and its lamp, according to the service of each lampstand, the way of each table for the rows of the bread of the presence, and the silver for the silver tables, the pure gold for the forks, sprinkling basins and pitchers, the way of each gold dish, the way of each silver bowl, the way of refined gold for the altar of incense, and the plans for the chariots of the gold cherubim that spread out their wings and covered the ark of the Lord's covenant. David concluded by the Lord's hand on me, enabled me to understand everything in writing, all the details of the plan. Then David said to his son Solomon, "Be strong and courageous, and do the work. Don't be afraid or discouraged. The Lord God, my God, is with you. He won't leave you or abandon you until all the work of the service, the Lord's house, is finished. Here are the division of the priests and the Levites for all the service of God's house. Every willing person of any skill will be at your disposal for the work, and the leaders and all the people are at your every command."
1 Chronicles chapter 29. Then King David said to all the assembly, "My son Solomon, God has chosen him alone, is young and inexperienced. The task is great because the building will not be built for human, but for the Lord God. So, to the best of my ability, I've made provisions for the house of my God. Gold for the gold articles, silver for the silver, bronze for the bronze, iron for the iron, and wood for the wood, as well as onyx, stones for mounting, antimony, stones of various colors, all kinds of precious stones, and a great quantity of marble. Moreover, because of my delight in the house of my God, I now give my personal treasures of gold and silver for the house of my God, over and above all that I've provided for the holy house. 100 tons of gold, gold of Ophir, and 250 tons of refined silver for overlaying the walls of the buildings. The gold for the gold work, and the silver for the silver, for all the work to be done by the craftsmen. Now, who will volunteer to consecrate himself to the Lord today? Then the leaders of the households, the leaders of the tribes of Israel, the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and the officials in charge of the king's work gave willingly. For the service of God's house they gave 185 tons of gold, and 10,000 gold coins, 375 tons of silver, 675 tons of bronze, and 4,000 tons of iron. Whoever had precious stones gave them to the treasury of the Lord's house under the care of Jehiel the Gershonite. Then the people rejoiced because of their leaders' willingness to give, for they had given to the Lord wholeheartedly. King David also rejoiced greatly. Then David blessed the Lord in the sight of all the assembly. David said, "May you be blessed, Lord God of our father Israel, from eternity to eternity. Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the splendor and the majesty, for everything in the heavens and on earth belongs to you. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom, and you are exalted as head over all. Riches and honor come from you, and you are the ruler of everything. Power and might are in your hand, and it is in your hand to make great and to give strength to all. Now therefore, our God, we give you thanks and praise your glorious name. But who am I, and who are my people, that we should be able to give as generously as this? For everything comes from you, and we have given you only what comes from your hand. For we are aliens and temporary residents in your presence, as well as were all our ancestors. Our days on earth are like a shadow without hope. Lord our God, all this wealth that we've provided for building you a house and for your holy name comes from your hand. Everything belongs to you. I know, my God, that you test the heart and that you are pleased with what is right. I have willingly given all these things with an upright heart, and now I have seen your people who are present here giving joyfully and willing to you. Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, our ancestors, keep this desire forever in the thoughts of the hearts of your people, and confirm their hearts towards you. Give my son Solomon an undivided heart to keep and to carry out all your commands, your decrees, and your statutes, and to build the buildings for which I have made provision." Then David said to the whole assembly, "Blessed be the Lord your God." So the whole assembly praised the Lord God of their ancestors. They knelt low and paid homage to the Lord and the king. The following day they offered sacrifices to the Lord and burnt offerings to the Lord, 1,000 bulls, 1,000 rams, and 1,000 lambs, along with their drink offerings, and sacrifices in abundance for all Israel. They ate and drank with great joy in the Lord's presence that day. Then for a second time they made David's son Solomon king. They anointed him as the Lord's ruler, and Zadok as the priest. Solomon sat on the Lord's throne as king in place of his father, David. He prospered, and all Israel obeyed him, all the leaders and the mighty men, and all the kings of David's sons as well. pledged their allegiance to King Solomon. The Lord highly exalted Solomon in the sight of all Israel and bestowed on him such royal majesty as had not been bestowed on any king over Israel before him. David, son of Jesse, was king over all Israel. The length of his reign over Israel was 40 years. He reigned in Hebron for 77 years and Jerusalem for 33. He died at a good old age, full of days, riches, and honor, and his son Solomon became king in his place. As for the events of King David's reign from beginning to end, note that they are written in the events of the seer Samuel, the events of the prophet Nathan, and the events of the seer Gad, along with all his reign, his might, and the incidents that affected him and Israel and all the kingdoms of the surrounding land.